I started church 97 years ago. My mother and daddy had 7 children, and we all knew we were going to church. We wanted to go to church. Our church was the center of all of Pendleton and all of our rural community. And everybody went to church then. Joe and Lolly Edwards, and they were always in church, and we always knew we were going to church. All I can remember, far back as I can remember, all of us went to church.
Well, we started going, we went to church every Sunday, training union at night. So we grew up in the church, and we knew that was, we just, like Mom said, it was the center of Pendleton.
Well, we sit through the service, but then after the service, especially at night, we'd be out there playing tag, and that was what we looked forward to for the training union service to be over, so we could get out there and run around.
And we enjoyed the Bible school. That was some of our good memories, our Bible school. We were there every summer.
Gotcha.
And then when we got older and we had children, we helped, with the little children's choir, and we became teachers. We taught in the Bible school and helped out in the Bible school. Right.
We used to have a bunch of children right here. Well, like I said, the church was the center of all of us.
It was like the little ones, the big ones played with the little ones. And it was just like that at our Bible school this year. The big ones were helping the little ones. So things just haven't changed. They all played together. Even when they went trick-or-treating, the big ones helped the little ones. So, I don't know, we were just all real close. We just stayed close.
I was married at Conway Church.
Okay.
Same here, Conway Church.
I got you.
I was married.
You were married here and y'all brought your wives
I
here.
brought my wife here.
I got you. Okay.
Spouse's name is Phyllis, and she's the organist, pianist at the church now.
Spice's Kitty.
Okay.
She's involved in a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And when I got married, actually I didn't get married in the church. I have to back that up. I got married, I did get married at the church, and then we had the reception out here. But then I moved to Jackson. That's where Tommy was from. And he wanted to come here, not in Jackson, for church. So we came over here every Sunday and went to church here. So our children grew up here, Nathan and Emily. So he just wanted to come here. I think it was the people. He just loved, the people. And so we've always, he just wanted to come here. So we've always been here in Pendleton.
Well, I always worked with the children, and we worked in the Bible school, and I taught them for years and years, and I was in the Missionary Society. Actually, I was president several years.
Any names?
Well, my mom and daddy for one, and my uncle Jim and Namer and Vernon Johnson and Miss Irene, and well, everybody was really. We were just one big family. Yeah, and we always had a full church. And one thing I remember as a little girl, if you didn't come to church, if you missed 2 Sundays, you were taken off the roll. And then we had to meet on Saturdays, and it was big. Everybody in church came, and we could get voted back into church.
Oh.
Steve, why don't you tell them what you would tell your children if they didn't go to church? They couldn't play outside in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, if somebody didn't go to church or they had to leave early, sometimes they had to leave early. And they had to go home and sit on the sofa until I got home. So they weren't going to just run around the house and do what they wanted to. So then if they didn't go to church, they weren't going to go outside and play that Sunday afternoon. That was always a little incentive. But coming up, we didn't need an incentive. We were always there.
Well, Mom and Dad, I think, were,
Obviously.
very obvious. I mean, that we grew up, in a Christian home, and so we were lucky. I mean, I felt like we were very fortunate that, but they were, I think, were the most. And then, but it's like Mom said, you think of, Big Bub and Edith. I call them Big Bub and Edith. Joe and Edith, and Mr. Joe Ellick, Miss Joan, and EJ and Ann Laurie. I mean, everybody. Bill Edwards. It's just
Miss Grace and
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert.
Miss Ruth Boone. I mean,
Yeah.
all those people. Were just-
Everybody.
I felt like we were all close. In fact, when we grew up, we thought we were all related. Because of all the Edwardses. There were so many
Okay.
Edwardses.
Yeah.
And
So there was more than one clan of Edwards back then, huh?
well, I guess. Was there more
What?
than one clan of Edwardses? More than one? But we just thought we were, because we were related to Sandra, and, we're all related. We're all cousins. But we thought everybody at our church at one time was, were our family. But
I got you.
they are family. But
Pretty much the same ones. James Jenkins, which is Miss Monna's husband.
Right.
John Parker, which is Virginia's daddy.
Okay.
They stand out in my mind.
We sort of always remember your first Sunday school teachers, and that would be Miss Edna Parker, which is Virginia's mother, and then John Parker, because he sang in the choir with my dad and James. But John Parker always had a low. I mean, he always sang low, and that's sort of when I sing now. I like singing low, like John Parker. So then there was Miss Edna. Sunday school teachers were Miss Edna and Miss Ida Fly. She didn't really have any. She wasn't married, I don't think. But anyway, those two were like the first Sunday school teachers.
Our old church had a basement, and that's where a lot of the kids met down there. We had class down there also.
they had a ping pong table.
Ping pong, but that was later on.
Yeah.
We did have some of our classes down there.
We had
Well, that's-
classes up in the balcony, and sometimes we would. When I was teaching a Sunday school class, that's where Sunday school, the youth would meet up there in the balcony. We could close the doors off from the sanctuary and meet up there.
As a little girl, I remember my dad standing up and telling us, we have paid off our last bill to our note on our church. That was the old church. Well, that was the church up here. And then I remember standing at the window not so long ago, and our church was burning up, going up in flames. But that wasn't the end of our church. We didn't miss a Sunday. We met up there at the Masonic building every Sunday until we could move into our new church now. We've always had our church in our community, and we wanted to go to church. And we did go to church every time it was open.
Okay. Well, I've taught Sunday school. When my children were little, I started out doing, helping with Bible school. And we also had our opening, Miss Florence Askew. She's another one that really had an influence on all of us. But we helped with the music. I did play the piano and organ a little bit. I can't do it now because I'm practice. But I took a lot of years of piano and some organ in college just to play. But just Sunday school teacher. Went to Peace College my first 2 years, and then I went to Meredith.
Okay.
But at Peace, I I took organ and piano too, but I just took it just to have something extra to do, my extra. I just wanted to keep taking it, and she's the first one, can you think of, Miss Vance taught me organ, and I played a little bit at church with the organ, but I still had to play in recitals at Peace, even with the majors, the ones that were majoring in music. I wasn't a music major, but I kept taking music. Now Emily, my daughter, and her family still coming to our church. Nathan has moved to Clayton, so they've just joined a church actually today. He kept thinking,
Oh, really?
he kept saying Pendleton, that's his church. I mean, he'll tell you that's his church, and
Right.
probably shouldn't say this, but he would get upset if somebody sat on the back row. That was his seat on the back row. I told him not to say that anymore. That's everybody's seat, but he's always, this is our church. This was his church, Pendleton. But they've finally joined. They've joined one in Clayton.
Been a deacon. I've been a deacon for a good while. Brotherhood. Never taught class or anything like that.
But you've had to support Phyllis for all her
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
and practicing.
Yeah.
I was a Sunday school teacher for just a short period when my son and like Rob and Nathan and them were at that age, and was an RA leader. We had RAs back then, and we would each summer a couple of summers we would get everything packed up, and I'd have things already in place at a pond down the road, Billy Fisher's pond, and we walked down the railroad tracks towards Severn and get back halfway there, right before you get to where Emily lives, and then we cut off and then walk through the woods and come out at a pond which is on this Willis Hare Road, and I'd had the tent already set up, and we camp out and we cook and fish, and 5, 6, 7. It was just a little group. It was a good group. And there was one time we were sort of having a little fishing contest. It's like 2 ponds there, and the pond right was the old pond where we were staying, where we had the camp set up, and then there was called the new pond, was sort of back behind the house. So Keith and I were the 2 leaders, Keith Edwards and I. So we sent the boys. Well, Keith probably took the boys to new pond, and I stayed at the old pond, and they came back. They didn't have any fish. But they came back, I had a whole mess of fish. I had thrown in a couple of fish traps in the pond, and so fish for supper that night. We cleaned the fish out there and had fish for supper. So we were, the pond would sustain us. I don't know, Larry and I were always on the Building and Grounds Committee, and I was going back through some notes and saw where he was the chairman back when we were getting ready to get new carpet and new seat cushions for the pews. And anything we did like that could always end up being a little controversial, and so we had a good committee. And
At church, there was a controversy.
well, I mean, picking out colors. Yeah, yeah. Picking out colors or picking out this and that. And anyway, Larry was the chairman, and he got it on through. We had a good committee, and we ended up when we were painting. We repainted the whole inside of the sanctuary, so we had to pick colors, and it was somewhat of an ordeal, but we got it through.
Well, it was a sad day. It was when I was teaching down at Willis Hare, and we heard about it, but it was just, like we always said, the church has always been the center of our little community, and you just wanted to cry. I've never seen, we had such a great committee. Larry, I don't know if you were on, I know Steve was on it. Were you on it, Larry? And Linwood and John Howard, I don't know, we just had a great committee, and I'll never forget when we were meeting at the Masonic Hall, and we had to vote on what y'all, I think, brought to the church. And I had told Tommy I dreaded going because I thought, we were going to have some arguments or disagreements. And anyway, it was nothing like that. Everybody was in agreement with what the committee, what they brought before us. And I don't know, I was just pleasantly surprised. Just everything, I don't know of anything that, that if anything went wrong, but it just went smoothly, I thought. I think we just had such a great committee, and it was just, we all voted on it, and it just turned out so well. I was just so proud and pleased, that we didn't have any controversy or, it just went smoothly, I thought. And y'all might have seen some controversy. I don't know, but I just thought they did.
No, we had a good committee. Ones you mentioned, and Bobby Joe Edwards, and Miss Betty Moore,
Joella Cohen.
Yes. But anyway, in my mind, it started a couple of years before that, when we were our preacher, James Crocker, Reverend James Crocker, wanted to put up. He had just bought a new truck. He just moved here, and the garage that we had, the parking probably wasn't big enough to drive a truck in. It was, probably built in 1954, like the parsonage was, somewhere around there. And so he wanted to put up a little metal building. He was going to pay for it and all, just to park his truck on it. But, in the process, we decided we would build the garage that's there now. And there was, a little debate there about whether we could afford it, because we had very little money in the general fund at that time. And nobody, that was one side thought we shouldn't do it because we didn't have the money, and didn't want to borrow the money. They'd already been through that over the years, but they always paid it back, so some of us didn't know what the problem was. Anyway, we had Keith went out and showed, he got pledges. Keith Edwards went out and got pledges and donations, and showed we could raise enough money to pay for it. So we proceeded with it, and the members did the work. Horace Jr. and the guy that helped him, Horace Jr. Heitland, and the guy that helped him, they were built houses, built Larry's houses and Keith's house. And anyway, the members actually did all of the work. We did the frame, we put the cement down, did framing, everything. The shingles on the roof. The membership did the entire garage. So that was like a couple of years before the church burned, and that sort of set the basis, sort of what, so we were able to move into the other a lot easier. Do more than what we thought we could do at the time, If you have something that you want to do, you can always come up with the support, come up with the money to do it.
Well, one of my things is that we used to have so many young people in our church.
Yes, ma'am.
And they've branched out to other places now. But I can't think of one that hasn't turned out to be a good citizen. And I think our church had a lot to do with that. I'd love to see more young people in our church, and I'd like to see it a little bit like it used to be. Well, like I say, we all grew up in the church, and we loved our church, and we don't want to ever lose it. We want it to start growing again like we were years ago.